time for the teams and drivers to pack up and leave Paul Ricard fly halfway around the world for the next and final round of the GT3 Championship for Season 5, which takes place at the classic circuit of Suzuka in Japan. But before we move on to the action for the next round, let's have a quick recap of the events at Paul Ricard. Antonis McCormick of Breakdancers qualified in pole position, with Hubert Aigner qualifying in second. A number of drivers picked up penalties as a result of stewards' inquiries, with Lev Bolokon of 420 Racing getting a drive-through penalty, David Yellon of SVR Team getting a 30-second stop-go, and Kieran Wilson picking up a drive-through penalty to be taken at the start of the race. But when the flags dropped and the lights turned green, the field got away safely, with Antonis McCormick moving away quickly to try and establish an early lead, and Thomas Sajak eventually slipping into second place behind him. However, one driver who didn't fare so well early on in the race was Manuel Duque, caught from behind by Urti. Suffered some damage and ended up pitting. Manuel Duque second place in the Drivers' Championship and needed at least a victory on this round to stand any chance of wrestling the title away from Hubert Aigner. Not a great start. Meanwhile, up front, Thomas Sajak eventually got through on Antonis McCormick to take the lead of the race, only 3 laps in. But inexplicably, of a pit stop round, Sajak drove straight into the end of the pit wall, incurred damage, and as a result of likely repairs during the pit stop, McCormick took the lead. Well, the battle was even closer, because as both cars just emerged from the pit lane exit, Hubert Aigner came through to join the battle for the lead of the race. It was Hubert Aigner who eventually emerged again, leading the race after the pit stop phase was over, and with around 12 to 13 laps left to go, it was only Antonis McCormick who was in close contact. However, it was only a few laps later that McCormick picked up a drive-through penalty, effectively eliminating the threat from Aigner for the lead of the race. Meanwhile, in an event that was to shape the end of the race for many drivers, it was Steph Farrell versus Thomas Sajak as they swept around the end of the Mistral Straight into the complex that made up Sector 3. If Sajak and Farrell came together, allowing Voodoo and Rodriguez to slip through, but it was Farrell's rejoining of the track right into the path of Nils Nins that effectively wrote off both their races. Farrell electing to pit for repairs, which would take some time, whereas Nils Nins elected to stay out on track, a decision that would cost him many places as he tumbled down the field in the last half of the race. So that left the battle between Voodoo and Rodriguez of Breakdancers, between who would take second and third place behind Aigner. Rodriguez taking advantage of the tow down the Mistral Straight before emerging from behind Voodoo's Bentley to sweep around the corner at the end of the Mistral and take the lead, moving into second place. But it was Hubert Aigner who took another victory, Hugo Rodriguez in second, and Voodoo in third. Those were the final positions for Paul Ricard. Their impact on the Drivers' Championship was that Hubert Aigner has been crowned champion of Tier 7 for Season 5 of the GT3 Championship. His lead now of 171 points over second place Manuel Duque cannot be beaten. This leaves the rest of the drivers to battle it out for second place in the Drivers' Championship, with Manuel Duque currently in the strongest position. In third place it's Thomas Sajak, just 39 points behind Manuel. So having a look at the team's championship, 420 Racing still in the lead position, 141 points clear of TWG Motorsports. SVR Team are in third and only just ahead of Shadow Lotus AMR, who are just 1 point clear of Breakdancers, who are in fifth. Then it's Beeswax Racing, and in seventh place Lotus. The main event at Suzuka is going to be a night race starting at 7:30 in the evening and moving through into 9 o'clock. Yes, it's 90 minutes this time round, so drivers will be allowed to refuel at the pit stop. Weather conditions are, it's been a warm and clear day. There's only a 20% chance of rain, and if that stays off, the track will be cool, but in good condition. And let's have a look at the start grid as a result of qualifying. 2 new drivers have joined the league this week for the final round in Tier 7. But Zdeněk Novotný has ousted Aigner to take pole position with a time round the Suzuka of 2 minutes, 0.135 seconds. So he leads out on pole alongside Huber. On the second row, it's Hugo Rodriguez of Breakdancers alongside Voodoo. Row 3, it's Steph Farrell of Shadow Lotus AMR alongside Nils Nins of Beeswax Racing. Row 4, it's the second Shadow Lotus AMR of Kirill Bajarski alongside Erti. Row 5 is taken over by TWG Motorsports with Dami Ayo just ahead of Sindre Ragnarsson. Row 6, it's SVR Teams Thomas Sajak alongside 420 Racing's Lev Balokon. Row 7, it's the second 420 Racing of Manuel Duque alongside Nectaria Cutiar. Row 8, it's the Lusus of Pedro Vieira. Unfortunately, his teammate was unable to join us this week, so not looking good for Lusus in the team's championship. He's alongside Declan Hugh. Row 9 is Artos Ivanov alongside the second SVR Team Ferrari of Daniel Yellon. On row 10 is the second Beeswax Racing McLaren of Steve Bezic alongside Lord Nem. Row 11 has got a second new driver to the tier, Edgar Jurich, alongside the driver who joined us last week for the first time, Maximilian Roth. And rounding out the field is Eduardo Trepiana. And it's Novotny leading out the field, having qualified on pole position alongside Aigner. But it's Steph Farrell and Thomas Sajak, who both have drive-through penalties as a result of incidents that took place at Paul Ricard. The collision between Sajak and Farrell deemed worthy of a drive-through penalty by the stewards. And once Farrell had been spun out, his dangerous rejoin right into the path of oncoming traffic in the shape of Nils Nins was also deemed worthy of a drive-through. So both those drivers will be at the back of the field from the start of the race once they've served that penalty. But it's Aigner who's moved up on Novotny at the start of the race and looks to have stolen a car's length before the lights even changed and the flag dropped. And Rodriguez is also making an attack up the outside, so Novotny, a new driver into this tier, being swamped by the experienced hands of Aigner and Rodriguez. Looking at turn 1, it's Aigner that sweeps through. Rodriguez at the inside, and his collision at the back. Something happened with Ivanovs. He takes to the grass, sweeps around, catches the rear of 420 Racing of Balokon, and then sweeps into the other 420 Racing Bentley of Manuel Duque. Ends up off the track, makes a recovery, and rejoins the race, but chaos caused there amongst the 420 Racing team by the Lexus of Ivanovs. Meanwhile, Aigner moves clear of the field out front, followed by Rodriguez and Novotny. A short gap then, back to Voodoo, who's fighting off the rest of the field. Is that Nils Nins tucked in right behind him? So coming through the S's. Aigner looking to move clear of the rest of the field. Aigner confirmed as champion of Tier 7, unassailable lead. And his closest rival, Manuel Duque, involved in that incident right at the start of the race. Drivers to watch out for. Thomas Sajak is currently in third place, and that drive-through will really hurt his chances of fighting off the TWG Motorsports Sindre Ragnarsson, who's in fourth place right behind him. There's just 51 points separating those two drivers. Moving through Denga 1 and Denga 2, Aigner with just a small lead now over Rodriguez and Novotny. Voodoo moving clear of those drivers behind him who are pursuing him as they go under the underpass, under the back straight. Voodoo only joining the league quite late, so no hope for the championship for him. So the Bentley there, Duque moving through shot. So Duque will be wanting to keep an eye on Sajak. That drive-through penalty will help his chances. And then Sindri Ragnarsson is 100 points behind, so a small threat there. So Duque's second place in the championship is really dependent upon the finish position of Thomas Sajak as they come through the hairpin for the first time. The two Aston Martin of Shadow Lotus AMR of Steph Farrell and Kirill Pojarski together. And it was Nils Nins who's closed up behind Voodoo, moved up to 5th place from the start of the race. And the front three trying to move clear of the field, and Voodoo trying to catch them as they come up towards Spoon. It's around the end of Spoon for most of the field. The only incident so far on the opening lap, that coming together between the 420 Racing Bentleys and Ivanovs. Everybody else looking to get away clear. And he's down a long back straight, moving into top gear and top speed. Steph Farrell, whose data we're showing, up to 250 kilometers an hour. And another 90 minutes ahead of the drivers, and it's only going to get darker. It's already quite dark at just 7:30 at night. This race will run through till 9 p.m. Looking at the computer at the side, Steve Bezick's leapt up from way down the field into 14th place on the first lap, so another good start for the Beeswax Racing McLaren. It's round 130R, one of the most difficult corners in the world. Found the GT3s need to make a slight lift to get through that corner in one piece, and they're into chicane to finish the first lap. It looked like one of the Aston Martin, Shadow Lotus and Declan Hume there may have gone straight on at the chicane. Outbrake themselves. On the reverse angle, it's Eigner, followed by Rodriguez and Novotny, and then Voodoo. And it's Nins, Erti, one of it, is it Ragnarsson? It was one of the TWG Motorsports. Mercedes, followed by the two Shadow Lotus AMR Aston Martins. And as they come round to complete the first lap, looks like a clear lead for the front four, followed by the rest of the field. And Farrell and Sajak electing to pit on the first lap and take their penalty straight away. Good idea, helps them clear traffic, will give them a clear track. And we see Farrell and Sajak serving their penalty for last week's incidents at Paul Ricard. Erti having a slight look there at Nils Nins in the Beeswax Racing McLaren. Seems no punishment to Erti last week for when he caught Manuel Duque at the start of the race and spun him out. Don't think that one got to the stewards. It did look like more of an accidental contact. Coming up towards the hairpin. Oh, was that another tap by Erti there on the back of Nins? He spun right round. He's onto the grass and losing places. So that's the second incident in 2 weeks where Erti's accidentally tapped the back of another driver. Erti did wait for Nins, but that's done neither of them any good this early on down the race to be dropping down the field. So that looks like Pojarski in front of Nins, so that would put Nins into possibly 8th place. And we cut back to join Steve Bezick. He makes a slight mistake there, slightly off the grass. And it looks like they've come together. The Lamborghini spins right round. Bezick recovers off the grass. See that again from a different angle. You see the McLaren's rear end steps out but recovers. But then the Lamborghini just clonks right into the side of the Mercedes, and they're both off and onto the grass. And it's coming round, it catches the Mercedes of Maximilian Roth, spins that out as well. Car's taken to the gravel trap to avoid the Lamborghini stranded in the middle of the track. And Roth overdoes it on his recovery, spins right around and has to wait for the track to clear. And that won't do Roth any good. Right towards the back of the field and rejoining. And the McLaren further down the lap, sitting duck then to Belocon coming through on the chicane. Well, we're only 3 laps in, and the McLaren diving into the pits. And I can confirm, because I was the driver, that I made a complete cock-up and loaded up the qualifying setting. I only had fuel for 3 laps, so giving myself a mountain to climb here. The Beeswax Racing entry at Steve Bezic going to have to fuel to the end of the race. Nearly 90 minutes on a full tank and 1 set of tyres to complete the race. Plus, we'll be well down the field now, right out the back. So a big task ahead of the Beeswax Racing entry. Meanwhile, out front, 7 laps in, Lord Nem gets too far over onto off the curb, spins round, clobbers the wall. There's a very brave rejoin spinning there in the middle of the track and pulls away. And that's cost him places. And that'll put Lord Nem just ahead of Trippiana, likely to be in 18th place now. On to lap 9, and we're with Sindrik Ragnarsson of TWG Motorsports being pursued by Kirill Pazharski of Shadow Lotus Aston Martin Racing. And Pazharski closing very quickly indeed on the Mercedes. Sweeps right through on the S's as they're coming up towards Denga 1, I think. And easily takes that place away. And Nils Nins is closing right in as well as you go through Denga 2. Oh, he's slightly overcooked it there. It looks like the car snapped on Nins. He went straight off to the side. Let's see what happened. Gets pretty close behind the Mercedes, and then the car just pulls to the left on him. Looked like a real surprise. And it's Erti who goes through. Erti, who just a few laps before gave Nins the spins. Something Nins is becoming famous for in Apex Online racing. Nins recovers well, and just a lap later sweeps past and goes right off onto the gravel track. That's a little bit cheeky, that is, to get past Ragnarsson, but he's through. So Ragnarsson dropping down the field slowly but steadily, and the next driver behind is his teammate Dami Ayo. So TWG Motorsports now in 8th and 9th, and only 1 Shadow Lotus Aston Martin in front of them. The SVR team are well down the field. So we're on lap 12, and still Ragnarsson seems to be going slowly backwards. He's gone wide on Spoon, and that's allowed Dami Ayo to come through up the inside. But Ragnarsson comes across and closes the door on Manuel Duque, 420 Racing. So with the exchange of places, it's still 8th and 9th for TWG Motorsports, bringing them a good haul of points. Their closest rival being SVR team, but Daniel Yellon and Thomas Sajak both well down the field at the moment. Yellon in 11th and Sajak down in 18th following that drive-through start the race. And we join Belocon on lap 13, and he is coming up on Daniel Yellon. And making that one look easy, straight up the inside. That'll move Belocon into 11th place. And meanwhile, on lap 14, towards the front of the race, Rodriguez slowly dropped back, and it looks like Rodriguez has gone wide there. It's kicking up a lot of dirt as they come around the final corner, and that's opened the door to Novotny, who goes up the inside, and that's Rodriguez forced to tuck in behind. Now Rodriguez is a very quick driver, so Novotny showing some real speed, joining tier 7 this late on. Qualified on pole, perhaps possibly naively let Aigner steal the march at the start of the race, because Aigner, despite qualifying in 2nd place, was clearly ahead of the Aston Martin of Novotny at the start. Turned that to his advantage, pulled clear away from the field right from the outset. Meanwhile, with Belocon, 15 laps in, now closing in on his teammate Manuel Duque. Oh, and Belocon's going to drive through. He must have cut the track just then, going through Denga 1 and Denga 2. Very easy to drift too far to the left to try and carry speed and get a track cut warning. That means Balocon's accumulated 4 warnings for track cuts, gets the drive-through penalty. And how far down is that going to drop him? 16 laps in, so about 1/3 of the race distance covered. Blocker rejoins, having served his penalty. So who's going to be ahead of him? That'll give us a clue to where his position is. And that is one of the Shadow Lotus AMR entries. And that is likely to be Steph Farrell. And that means it's likely that Balocon is down in 19th place as a result of that drive-through penalty. And we cut to Urti going in for his pit stop. That looked like a very hot entry there into the pits for Urti. You see a number of cars here. So Urti pulls up to a stop for his pit stop. Fresh tyres and a refueling. And we cut back to Urti pulling out of the pits, rejoining the track. Now, it's that hot entry that we saw. It's been a very quick. It's going to cost him a penalty. Don't say it will, because Urti's already, and he has. Urti's picked up a stop-go, 30-second penalty again. Now, Urti was well inside the top 5, but not anymore. That penalty will push him right down the field. And Urti not learning. That's not the first 30-second stop-go that he's had in this championship. So he's really got to work on those pit entry procedures to avoid picking up silly penalties. We were at the front of a race at 24 laps and just over half distance, I think. The race leader, Aigner, pulls into the pits. And we cut to Aigner pulling back out of the pits again. Will he get a drive-through penalty or a stop-go? Because that would ruin his race chances. No, he's looking clear at the moment, so a good stop for Aigner. Where's he going to rejoin? Declan Hume comes through the picture. Is that Aigner in the background? So if that's the case, then Aigner's in 4th place. So a strong position to say he's only just finished his pit stop. Declan still not having stopped after that early coming together with the Beeswax Racing entry. But we rejoin Niels Nins, who's leading the race at lap 25. Niels always likes to get his moment of glory every week, so whoever can oblige him, I will. Cut to lap 26, and Lord Nem coming through the S's. Oh, he's gone far too wide there. He's on the grass, and his car's gone on him. That's heavy into the wall. Big spin for Lord Nem. Declan Hume. Now, Declan was in 3rd place there, and well, like Lord Nem was about to drive back onto the track in quite a dangerous manner, but we cut forward, and it's Aigner behind Declan Hume. So we're 28 laps in. To my knowledge, Declan had not pitted, which is the reason he's so far up. Aigner makes that look easy. Declan's tyres must be in a very, very poor state. And we join Beeswax Racing as well on lap 28, being pursued by Thomas Sajak. So we saw the Beeswax Racing entry pit on lap 3 to fuel up to the end of the race. So again, this car is on very, very worn tyres. Sajak will have just pitted, and he's using that to his advantage. Goes up the inside on Spoon, and the McLaren tucks in behind, so that's Sajak only in 17th place. And Sajak's 3rd on the Drivers' Championship, which is 51 points clear of the TWG Motorsports entry of Sindri Ragnarsson. So Sajak really needs to push, cannot be languishing down in 17th place when Ragnarsson's currently in 9th. Moving forward to lap 31, and we're with Edgar Jurek. We caught a little bit of a curb there, going through 130R, and he's got the Lusus of Pedro Vieira right behind him. And Pedro's got the inside there on the chicane. And it looks like Pedro's going to get the better line there on the exit. So Edgar dropping 1 place. Vieira to 12th. Edgar down into 11th. Edgar doing quite well on his first outing. Still in the midway up the field. Nowhere near as well though as Novotny, who's making quite a splash on his debut for Tier 7. And finally with Declan Hume, who's still not pitted. We're 33 laps in. There's only a few laps of the race left. So he's really stretched the fuel and the tyres a long, long way, and he finally pits from 2nd place. So Declan really hanging on to a top position for as long as possible. But the rules do require everybody to pit, so it was never going to last all the way. But it's how many places Declan can hang on to. As we see Lord Nem in the pits again. This must be for repairs, so Lord Nem currently in last place. Must be having a very, very difficult evening. As we've seen him spinning at least twice that we've seen. And now at the back of the field. And to make things even worse for him, he's got a stop-go 30-second penalty. So the night can't get any worse for Lord Nem. Completely out of the back of the field. There's no chance of him making any places up. And we join. Oh, that was a big off there for Artur Ivanovs coming into the hairpin. Car just seemed to stop and pull over to the right, and that's opened the door for Thomas Sajak, who didn't need asking twice, straight through on the Lexus. And we join on lap 43, Hubert Eigner for victory number 5 of season 5 for Tier 7. Moving well clear of the rest of the drivers in the championship. And, well, I think Hubert is destined for a much higher tier next season. He's been much quicker than everybody else in this tier, which is shown in the results. But on his debut event, Novotny finishing in second place. Very credible finish. Just coming through the chicane and around the final corner. So very good first showing for Novotny. Who may have tipped his hand too well, because he's kept pace pretty closely with Eigner. I'm not sure if Novotny will be in one of the lower tiers for next season. And in third place, it's another driver who's put in very strong performances ever since he debuted halfway through the season. It's Hugo Rodriguez, a breakdancer, who finishes in third. No more drama on the final lap. We're with Edgar Jurek again in the Audi. He's being pursued by Thomas Sajak, who drew alongside him on Spoon. But coming out of Spoon, Jurek kept his foot down in there, and the Audi pulled away in front of the Ferrari of Sajak. All the way down the back straight, coming towards 130R. Sajak desperate to make up places. He knows points are vital. He's in his third place in the championship under a lot of threat by Sindri Ragnarsson, who finished in 10th. So coming up to the chicane, Jurek desperate to keep ahead, but outbraked himself. So Jurek goes straight through on the chicane, and that means that Sajak will get through. So Jurek, much to his disappointment, no doubt, will lose one place right at the end of a race. That should put Sajak into 15th place and Jurek down into 16th. Well done to Jurek on completing his first race within Apex Online Racing for Assetto Corsa Competizione. And more drama on the final lap. Pedro Vieira has attracted the attention of the stewards during the race. He's got a drive-through penalty for multiple track-cutting incidents. But what's he to do? I don't think he's sure of the rules, so Pedro decided to pull into the pits to see if that will clear the drive-through penalty. But it is the last lap, and may well warrant investigation after the race. So currently Pedro Vieira in 9th, but that drive-through penalty would normally turn into some form of time penalty against the result. So Lusus is one entry this week, having a very confusing finish to the end of the race. Let's have a look at the official race results at the end of round 9 at Suzuka. Hubert Eigner is confirmed in first place, takes maximum points to add to his Drivers' Championship tally. Zdeněk Novotny, in his premiere in Apex Online Racing for Assetto Corsa Competizione, finishes in a very credible second place, having qualified on pole. In third place for breakdancers, it's Hugo Rodriguez with another very strong finish. Fourth place goes to Voodoo. Fifth place is the Shadow Lotus Aston Martin Racing of Kirill Pujarski. Sixth place goes to Beeswax Racing Nils Nins. In seventh, following that Herculean stint from the start of the race to about lap 34, it's Declan Hume. In 8th and 9th, it's TWG Motorsports with Dame Ao in 8th and Sindri Ragnarsson in 9th. 420 Racing are next with Lev Balokan in 10th. And the second Shadow Lotus Aston Martin Racing of Steph Farrell finished in 11th. Manuel Duque of 420 Racing finishes in 12th. And the unfortunate Pedro Vieira, who did attract that drive-through penalty on the very last lap, is dropped down the field to 13th place. Urti finished in 14th. And the first SVR team Ferrari of Thomas Sajak finished in 15th place. So points are looking a bit scarce for SVR team. The fight between Shadow Lotus, Breakdancers and SVR team was very tight, so it's going to be a close finish for the team's championship. New driver Edgar Juric finished in 16th. In 17th is Artos Ivanov. The second SVR team of Daniel Yellon is in 18th, followed by the Beeswax Racing entry of Steve Bezic, who also had to do a Herculean stint, having pitted on lap 3 and having to pit again on the very last lap for fuel. Nectaria Kutiar seemed to have a very difficult race and was always seen to be at the back of the field. Nectaria was doing quite well on the Drivers' Championship, but he finishes in 20th. Lord Nem we saw spinning several times and getting a further stop-go penalty coming out of the pits. And Eduardo Tripiana and Maximilian Roth, I don't believe, finished the race. Let's have a look at the official Drivers' Championship at the end of Season 5 of Apex Online Racing for Tier 7. Hubert Eigner, who was crowned champion last week at Paul Ricard, finishes with another victory. That makes 5 victories out of 9 races. So a really solid win for Hubert, who gets 762 points. He's 233 points clear of his closest competitor, Manuel Duque of 420 Racing. Thomas Sajek managed to hang on to 3rd place and a podium position. With 467 points, he's just 34 points clear of Sindri Ragnarsson of TWG Motorsports, who finished on 4th. So Sindri did a lot in the last race to move up the field, but it wasn't quite enough to dislodge this SVR team driver. In 5th place, Hugo Rodriguez of Breakdancers does an incredible performance to take 5th place in the Drivers' Championship despite only having competed in 5 rounds. In 6th place is Nectaria Kutiar, who had a night of horrors at Suzuka and in the end probably feels fairly lucky to have only dropped 1 further place down the championship table. He's 1 point clear of Lev Bolokon of 420 Racing, who finished in 7th. Dami Ayo of TWG Motorsports climbed back up the table to finish in 8th. Conal McCarthy, who didn't attend this round, slips down another 2 places into 9th. Kirill Przarski of Shadow Lotus Aston Martin Racing takes 10th place in the Drivers' Championship. And final positions in the Teams' Championship for Season 5. 420 Racing take the Teams' Championship. Lev Bolokon and Manuel Duque in their Bentley Continental. In the end, having an unassailable lead of 932 points, 125 points clear of 2nd place TWG Motorsports of Dami Ayo and Sindri Ragnarsson. In 3rd place, and where the big battle occurred, the final victor to take the podium was Shadow Lotus Aston Martin Racing. So Kirill Przarski and Steph Farrell managed to fend off Breakdancers and SVR team to take 3rd. In the end, there were only 7 points clear of Breakdancers, who finished in 4th. So Antonis McCormick and Hugo Rodriguez between them didn't complete every single round, so an incredible performance by them both to get 4th place on the championship. SVR team will be cursing. They've slipped down the table in the very last round and they finish in 5th place, 16 points behind Breakdancers. In 6th place, it's Beeswax Racing, Steve Bezic and Nils Nins. Their season never really took off and they trail behind SVR team by 100 points. And Lusus of Pedro Vieira and Felipe Silva always struggled this season, only forming their team halfway through the season, so always had an uphill struggle. And that concludes Season 5 of GT3 Championship hosted by Apex Online Racing in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Congratulations to Hubert Eigner on taking the Drivers' Championship and to 420 Racing, Lev Bolokon and Manuel Duque on taking the Teams' Championship. Next events up for Apex Online, there's a GT4 Championship starting on Tuesday the 1st of December. I'm sure it'll take the usual format of qualifying at 7:30 followed by the race. All races in the GT4 Championship will be an hour long and full details will be released very soon. Also coming up on Saturday, November the 28th at 3 PM, it's the Endurance 6 Hours of Kent, so 6 hours at Brands Hatch. This is for GT4 class only. Beeswax Racing have 2 entries into that event and that whole 6-hour race will be streamed live. Also coming up soon on the 5th of December, with qualification at 6 o'clock followed by the race at 7 o'clock. There's a mini Nordschleife Endurance 2 hours for LMP1 class and GT3 class in Assetto Corsa. Entries are still open for this, so please check the link below in the description if you're interested in entering. The event will be run on 10 times speed acceleration, so it will effectively be a mini 24-hour race. So please tune in for that one, it's bound to be exciting. So those are the events coming up soon. New GT4 season, GT4 endurance race, and an LMP1 and GT3 class race at the full Nordschleife endurance track. If you have enjoyed these events and you'd like to see more, please subscribe so you receive alerts when the next set of races are going out. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed this show. Thank you for watching, hope you've enjoyed, and we hope to see you again soon.